her a couple times and she's not picked up. So we gotta have these meetings and then we can go out and I can call my mom. So it's December 11th, 5:30 PM. This is the public safety meeting. Lisa Dorsey, our chair, is not available this evening, so I'll be running it with my cohort, Brian McGinnis. And we're calling this meeting to order. Any announcements? All right, any comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda?
Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. I like safety. I was going to give you my High Street report. I'll start with Linden Street at High Street. The bump out curb was not visible for oncoming traffic due to being covered with leaves. Lacey Street at High Street, 12-inch puddle. The construction barrier is still covering the drain cover. This was still in place. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I actually thought it was an interesting call out that it's not just that it's covered, but now we're getting puddles and tonight it's going to freeze and it could cause a hazard for people or drivers. So I don't know if that's something like we can just make sure that there's not a bunch of puddles and frozen stuff going on tomorrow morning. Thank you. All right, any other comments?
What was that intersection again? High and thank you.
You said High and Lacey, and you said High and Nields as well?
Linden, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, Westchester Fire Department report.
Good evening, Dave March. I will be doing the department tonight. Mark Scanlon says his apologies as he is working. For the month of November, we responded to 151 incidents, 66 which were in the borough. That brings our yearly total to 1,610. 661 of those were in the borough of Westchester. Incidents for the month, we responded to 4 house fires, 3 of those in West Goshen Township, 1 was in the borough. 2 separate vehicle accidents where vehicles struck and caused damage to buildings. Our technical rescue team from the FAME responded to both of them and shored up both properties. That's all I have if there's no questions.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Westchester Police Department.
Hello, Josh Lee, the police chief. Be on the lookout for the Grinch for he's out there. In addition to the one that just gave a report, there's a Grinch. Real quick, as far as the numbers go, you'll see a spike in misdemeanor assaults, that third column from the left. I don't really have an explanation for that, but they almost doubled, most of which were very minor in nature, most of which have been solved. If you look towards the right, the alcohol and all others, which are alcohol related public nuisance type crimes, they've gone down slightly, and that's anticipated being November. I expect that to be low in November and December and January. I've spoken over the last several months about thefts and burglaries that we've had, many of which have been in the Southeast. I've told you that we've been working on them and that we hope to clear a great number of them. The fact is, over the last 26 or 28 months, we've had more than 24 burglaries that we're now able to say have been committed by the same perpetrator or perpetrators, and we have an arrest warrant for one of those people. I'm not ready to tell you who that is, but we have not arrested that person yet. But when we do, we'll be able to clear a great number, in more than 24 burglaries that have occurred over the last 2+ years. That's in very large part to a lot of work, hundreds and hundreds of hours by not only our detectives and our patrol officers, but detectives from other agencies as far away as Philadelphia and Montgomery County. I'll have more on that once we do arrest that person. As far as noise complaints go, pretty calm month, not a whole lot to report. The graph shows you where the noise complaints have come from, what quadrants of the borough they've come from. Not surprisingly, half of them, almost just over half, 22 out of the 43 noise complaints have come from the southeast. If we go to the next slide, those complaints have been resolved. 28 of those complaints were unfounded. You understand what that means. When the police got out there, there was no violation or no evidence to support a violation. 15 of those complaints were founded, meaning we did have evidence of a violation. Of those, we did not issue any citations. The great majority of those 15, 11 or 12, were not related to loud parties or disruptive residences. They were those other types of noise complaints or loud disturbances that we've talked about before: children singing, sports activities, construction after 9 p.m. or before 7 a.m., that type of stuff. And that's really it for that part of the report. If you have questions, I'll answer them. And I do have one other thing I'd like to mention. Okay. I don't have a slide on this. I'm just going to talk very briefly, and then I'm going to speak again in finance where it really hits home. I came to you earlier in the year talking about body-worn cameras and a body-worn camera project and what we expect that to cost us. I believe I came to you and told you that we received grant money for that. We're prepared to purchase next year and to enter into year one of a 5-year contract with Axon, the maker of body-worn and in-car cameras, to supply the department with 40 body-worn cameras, 15 in-car video systems, and cloud storage and retrieval for all those systems for the next 5 years. That will come at a total cost of just over $515,000. That cost breaks down by roughly year one, next year, $145,000, year two, $145,000, and then years 3 through 5 at $75,000 apiece. I'm happy to say that the grants will cover most, if not all, upwards of 90% of year one and year two costs. And then years 3 through 5 will be on the hook for ourselves. Although we have budgeted for 100% of that $515,000, we'll be getting more than half of that back. So happy to report that, and there'll be more detail on finance. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
No, Chief, I think that is that's really good news. Also want to point out too about that social worker, right? There's a lot of talk about that. There were some mental health issues on there. So excited about that next year. One question I got is, and I don't know if the bid's out there yet because we didn't approve it, but does that social worker need to have like a master's, or what is the criteria?
So thanks for the question. In very early 2025, I plan to sit, for lack of a better word, a committee together. I have some people in mind that have more expertise than I do on the subject. We'll put a job description together. And at that point, we'll, if not the very end of this year, but the very beginning of next year, in January, we'll put that together, and the council will probably be the first to hear that. But I don't want to really say any more without knowing those details.
Perfect. And will that include the people from Radnor Township as well as Lancaster City that currently have this position?
Will what include?
The committee or recommendations from them?
Yes, I've solicited recommendations from Radnor Township, and we have other resources we're going to reach out to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, thank you.
Yes, comment from the residents?
Lisa Kearns, West Biddle Street. I do remember where I lived this time. I noticed when he was talking about the noise complaints, particularly, he used a term unfounded. I don't know if that's a state required term, but to me, if I had made a complaint, I've never made a noise complaint, but you're labeling the complaint as unfounded. Whereas you explained what it really means is we've gone out there, we've looked at it, and we can't substantiate it. So I just know the legal terms that I'm familiar with. Unfounded means that a review of the facts shows no reason to believe that the incident occurred. And that's not what we're talking about. You didn't prove that it didn't happen. Whereas unsubstantiated means an allegation that was investigated and the investigation produced insufficient evidence to make a final determination as to whether or not the event occurred. So I'm wondering if it would be possible to maybe, for these reports, rather than calling the residents complaint says unfounded, which to the layman means, hey, you just put in an unfounded complaint. Trust me, my complaint was founded. I'm talking as the person. By the time you got there, it was either, unverifiable or unsubstantiated. Just kind of wondering about the terminology a little bit. And was there maybe a state category that they used?
To answer the last part of the question first, yes, that's a term that we don't come up with. When it's unfounded, it's exactly as I described. The definition, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as the state reporting requirements are concerned, is that when we go out and there's no evidence that the incident happened, it clicks off as unfounded. That does not mean that we don't believe the people that called that said they had an issue, which is why we go to every call for service that we receive. It just means that there was nothing more to do with that case.
It's a state requirement. Seems misleading.
Thanks for the question, though. It's, it's good to clarify because yes, then residents out there, whoever's paying attention, that know that you're believed. It's just, not.
Kind of be like seeing the Grinch.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then the next thing you know, it's unfounded. You never know. I mean,
Or Bigfoot, yeah. One question for January report that'll be, for as much of the years you've been tracking, can we see some kind of trend or graph or something for not just the alcohol and those incidents, but from the noise complaint standpoint, something similar? I don't know, like you have the bar graph that you do for some of those, but is there something that you can do like for the noise complaints?
You'd like to see a monthly review or monthly breakdown of all the noise complaints?
Yeah, like just an up and down, so we can see if there's any trends or anything. I mean, I know there's the southeast trend, but were there other trends that we can look at?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Good fellowship.
Good evening, Justin Robbins, Assistant Chief, Good Fellowship Ambulance. Month of November, Good Fellowship responded to 667 calls in total, and 217 of them were here in the borough. Nothing abnormal here in the first couple pages of the report. We did see our alcohol begin to trend up again in the month of November. So we get a lot more calls associated with that. Our injured persons, our falls, we see a lot of that associated with the alcohol calls. Other than that, really nothing substantial to discuss with our report. Pretty standard month for us.
no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions from anyone else in attendance? Okay. Old business, approved November 2024 meeting minutes. Any questions?
No questions.
No, we're good with those. New business, any new business? No? Any other business? Well, shoot, I'll be able to call my mom sooner than I think. Let's adjourn this meeting at 5:44.